Hello, welcome to PEEP Live, episode number 8. My name's James Watling, coming to you from the centre of Newcastle, the beautiful Newcastle on Tyne. We are representing PEEP Live with my main man, Cliff Sainsbury, my partner in crime, the main man at PEEP Magazine. So it's good to be back and good to have some viewers out there. Great subscriber base that we have at the moment. We have almost 2,000 subscribers, which we're looking to hit that number. So if you're not already a subscriber and you've just happened to tune in, you've just come across us, then please hit that subscribe button, hit the notification button. And if you'd like to take part in tonight's show, we'd be welcoming any of your comments that you have to give. As I said, my name's James Watling, former professional fighter and philanthropist, international man of mystery. I coach under the brand Team Alpha, which is my coaching kind of ethos and system. I coach all different types of things, martial arts such as boxing, kickboxing, some jiu-jitsu, some Wing Chun, combined with strength and conditioning, resistance training, nutrition work, nutrition science, supplementation, sports psychology, and practical psychology. And if you'd like to be involved with that, please get in touch with me. You can follow us on Twitter, PEEP Magazine, specifically on Twitter, at PEEP Magazine. You can follow us on Instagram at peep.ltd, PEEP Limited, one word. And as I said before, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, peepmagazine.co.uk. My own Twitter feed is at WatlingHot, and you can find me on Facebook under Team Alpha or James J. Watling, I believe, and also on Instagram at Team Alpha 1424. Cue the graphics. We're bringing them up. I was a little bit slow on that. Cue the graphics. There you go. Okay, today's show is also, I was a little bit slow on that. Cue the graphics. I couldn't quite get the word out. Today's show is sponsored by Spennymoor Sports. We're proud to have Spennymoor as a partner tonight. The Northeast Specialist Sports Retailers located in Durham. They're established in 1975, which is a great year, I'm sure. So they're very kindly donated to us tonight's prize, actually, or tonight's main prize. We actually also have, just before I get onto that, we have PEEP Cups now. We're coming up. You can please zoom in on the PEEP Cup, because you can tell we're coming up in the world. Because when you're hitting that 2,000 subscriber mark, you have to have your own cups. Who wants that cup? We might have to have a special question for the cup. I mean, I have to say these are actually really cool on a serious note. And what we'll do in future episodes, I'll have like a drink to drink out of it just to promote the channel as I do. And we also have another small prize which we may stick in tonight. Another partner, APN Nutrition. You can find APN's sports in the Metro Centre and also at the other main shopping centre called The Galleries, which I'd forgotten, Extreme Pump pre-workout formula. However, coming back to Spennymoor Sports, they have donated the main prize for tonight's question, which we'll give you later. Brand new, as you can see, they're still in the package there. Tuf-wear Pegasus gloves, which I was looking before, but they're actually 10-ounce gloves, and that'll be the main prize for tonight. So to stand a chance of winning, you need to stay tuned into the show. Lovely little logo there. My colours as well, the Pretty Boy Assassin colours, the white and red. So big up the colours, yeah. So they'll be on offer tonight. I think I'm just gonna leave them in the bag actually, so when you get them, you know that they're brand new. Lovely glove as well. So lovely set.
You can win these.
And you can win them. You can win them, and we may even send them out to you. You might not even have to come and collect them. So how is that? So again, shout out to Spennymoor Sports. I will be mentioning them throughout the show, and again, appreciate their partnership. Just to give you a bit more information actually on the gloves as I'm looking down, they're handmade from cowhide leather, the highest quality possible. Reinforced palm lining to allow your hands to breathe. When you're having a heavy session, pad session, or sparring session. And the sizes are actually available in 10, 12, 14, and 16 ounces.
Those are 10.
And a range of colors. But yeah, as we said, these are 10-ounce gloves. So these are great for, for pads and bags and things like that. And, perhaps competition as well if they were sanctioned. Or you bring your own gloves. Bring up your own gloves and show. So, with all that being said, we're going to get into the main section of tonight's show. As you can see, I'm in my regular show black, and I have my new Jude Law haircut, so you can spot the hairline as we go. Combat news. This is how we normally run things. We like to lead off with some combat news. But actually, before we get on to our main section, just to give you a brief, actually, we're going to work through combat news. We're going to talk a little bit on boxing, a little bit on mixed martial arts. And then on tonight's PEEP EXCESS, we're going to be talking book reviews. So we've got something special for you there. And we're also going to be talking on PEEP EXCESS a little bit. Oh, in fact, it has its own section now. It has its own section, and it is our usual slot with Ridley Scott.
Yes.
And we're going to be talking about his new mini-series. Is that the right name? Mini-series on AMC. Mini-drama on AMC called The Terror. Now, unfortunately, I wasn't able to watch the first episode, which is yours for free.
Chris Hollywood in the house.
Chris Hollywood. Shout out to Chris Reed. My man, how's it going?
He's up for a party 1
Grinding, right? Well, yeah. And you know what? I haven't prepped Chris as a close friend, my close friend of mine. And I haven't prepped him up. I've not even spoke to Chris about tonight's show. So if he does win, it's completely above board and legitimate. So once again, just a little, can we see the gloves? These could be yours. Shout out to Chris Hollywood Reed. We've had Chris on the show. I think it was PEEP episode 5. If you want to go back and check that, you'll see Chris Reed, a fantastic jiu-jitsu, very talented jiu-jitsu player, great friend of mine, great athlete, sports person. This one? No worry. Unless, can I just say, unless Tesco want to sponsor the show, in which case they can come back on. And a psychiatric care nurse, fantastic gentleman, and very intelligent, and a very kind of like warm, energetic presence to have around you. Great guest, fantastic. And we'll have him back on. Actually, we'll have him back on. Maybe we'll do a peep in air, peep on the road. Peep on the road. That would be great. I just want to give a shout out to In Case. Big shout out to In Case. Massive. I've got to say, just if you want the highest quality bags for either sports gear or for your laptop, etc. Google In Case. Get on that. I think they're available in Phoenix. They're a high end bag. They're not something you're going to find, with all due respect, in kind of a regular sports shop. They are high-end equipment. They were generous enough to send us one of their sports field bag, one of the high-end bags. In actual fact, if you go onto PEEP channel, you can see a section we did on it, a little section on the bag itself, just showing the use, etc., in amongst other things. But I'm going to show you. I'm come off the mic now. This is a bag that In Case had sent to us, which I've been using now for the last 2 or 3 weeks. Incredible bag. I'm not going to go too big, because you can actually watch the as I say, the video, or whatever you want to call it. We've actually done a piece on it already. Full review, full bag review, but absolutely incredible. I mean, there's pockets within pockets, there's trainer pockets. It's incredibly light as well, and incredibly well made. I mean, this thing's going to last for a long time. But I love it so subtle as well. Even with the logo, it's a really subtle kind of just a lovely set. You can get your laptop in there, your trainers. When I come up to see Chris, I'll be no doubt bringing this bag up with all my training gear, etc. in. So big shout out to In Case, one of our main partners on PEEP magazine. Also, incase.com. You should check those guys out. They're not cheap. That bag here, that's retailing at around £200. That's the real deal. Oh, well, there is obviously other price ranges there to suit, but you are paying for quality. You're absolutely paying for quality, and quality counts. I was going to mention something else actually. It's escaped. I can't remember what it is. It was actually to do with Chris, and I can't remember what it was linked to the bag. It'll come to me.
I think Chris was after the bars as well.
Oh, that's spoken for, my man. That's not a prize, but I'm going to bring it up, and when I see you soon, my man. And
what up, champ from Chris? What up, champ? He says.
Thanks, my man. It was good, and thank you for being there as well, my man. It was a fun night, man. It was a fun night. Great friend, and I look forward to seeing you soon. So, Syntax. This is a new featured playlist within our channel. I'm going to read it off the.
Hi, Scott. Hi, Scott, if you're watching.
Hello, Scott, if you're watching. This is the place for our contributions within, right, so Syntax is a new part of our channel. This is the place for contributions within art, documentaries, social commentary, and who knows what, you can decide. So if you'd like to have a suggestion on this new section of our channel, Syntax, because what we're trying to do here at PEEP is bring to you more than just combat sport. We love combat sports; they're dear to our hearts. We want to bring, as we've been doing in the past, lifestyle. We're going to bring music. We want to bring film. We want to bring literature. We want to bring a bit of philosophy, psychology, history, art, science, the whole deal. We're going to have neuroscientists on. We're going to have quantum physicists on. We're going to have artists on, professional artists. We're going to get the whole deal on. So it's not just about combat sport. This is why we're going to expand. Although, I suggest we start unboxing things. We should start unboxing new things. Because there's a great channel called Unbox Therapy. Check it out. And they have 10 million subscribers. And it's a fantastic channel, actually, on a serious note. But perhaps we should go the route of unboxing things. Cliff, anything you want to add to that, my friend, before we go on to the name?
For the Syntax.
I'm reading off the card for that because it's not something we've done yet, so it's...
Syntax playlist. For the Syntax playlist, we're actually waiting on a couple of animations.
Oh, fantastic.
That are coming in from a guy who works for us called Richie Henderson.
Right.
So there's a series of animations called Warp World.
Right.
Which are very, very good.
Yeah.
And he's been working on them for a few years. We're going to get... I think there might be about 4 episodes all going to be going on the channel.
So we're going to have some animation, some original animation from a local talent?
Yeah.
A local talent, and that'll be on our first Syntax, and that'll be 4 episodes of animation that we'll be bringing to you exclusively on PEEP Live. So we're going to talk a little bit on combat news. So we're going to talk boxing. As we say, we are a live channel. We're coming to you sometimes after the fact. So some of the news that you have, you maybe already heard about or read, and perhaps you haven't, and you can research more into it from today. So Amir Khan successfully KO'd Phil Lo-Greco, the Problem, in 40 seconds, 39 seconds if you want to get technical, in the first round in his comeback fight. Amir Khan had been out of the ring for approximately 2 years from the professional boxing ring in a proposed build-up for a future fight, a big fight that will be upcoming. I'm going to mention Kell Brook because he has obviously got into the ring afterwards, and Eddie Hearns talked a little bit about what his next fight would be, so we're going to get a little bit more into that. But just an interesting point, and this is something that the papers and the media like to talk about, is how much they earn per second. So apparently he earned £12,000 per second for his performance, which I believe equaled that he was paid 480 Gs, £480,000. I believe that's what it was. But he was certainly paid £12,000 per second. I did a little bit of mathematics. I could be out there. So it's not too bad. But then again, it's just good copy when you say £12,000 a second, because if it had gone the full 12 rounds, it would obviously be a lot less than £12,000 a second. Then you take into account the camp, etc. But it's interesting. So we're talking about the next fight for Amir Khan. So first of all, I hadn't watched the fight all the way through. I've watched highlights of it. So those who watched the whole thing, please, put your comments in there, your feedback. But it was a tremendous performance from Amir Khan. He just seemed to kind of come out off the first bell, measure him up. I think he dropped him. Did he drop him twice before the stoppage? He certainly dropped him once. And I think it was a nice right hand over the top of a jab, from what I remember. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then as Phil Lo-Greco got back up, he kind of got him onto the ropes. And again, just through fast combinations, I think it was body shots that actually stopped him. So he kind of jumped on him. They talked about how, Phil Lo-Greco had gone rounds before with good fighters in the past. But I think it was more than him just kind of like coming out and surprising him. It was just a case that Khan was really on point and on his game. And, arguably, the quickest combination puncher, and I don't want to say in boxing history because that really expands it, but certainly in the modern generation, let's say one of the fastest combination punchers in the sport, Individually fast, I don't know, not Manuel Medina. And then Khan beat him, which I was really surprised. Marcus, yeah. Was it Marcus? Marcus Medina, thank you. It was Medina, yeah, Marcus Medina. Just out of interest, I mean, Mayweather had fought him the first time. My heart was in my mouth the first Mayweather fight because I didn't know how it was going to go. Mayweather beat him in the rematch. He beat him quite conclusively in the second. I was surprised that Amir Khan had beat Medina as well because I think he was knocked down, if I'm not mistaken, Khan in that fight, and he boxed a tremendous victory. So Broner had lost to Medina, not by stoppage. I think he'd been knocked down. And he'd lost to him. So Broner, he's had a few losses under his belt, but he still talks a good game. He's got that kind of like Mayweather style of fighting, and he talks a good game. He's a reasonably bigger name, I would say, than Keith Thurman, which is another potential opponent, KO Thurman, which I think would be quite a dangerous matchup for Amir Khan because Thurman's obviously a very big puncher. And another potential opponent would be Manny Pacquiao, who I believe is due to face Lucas Matisse. And if he was to come through that successfully, would he be the big marquee matchup for Amir Khan? They're looking at the end of this year, so you're probably looking at November time. Certainly Khan will fight again before then, over the summer, but again against a so-called mark time opponent before he faced his bigger challenge in the winter. What do you guys think? I mean, who would you like to see Amir Khan fight? Not necessarily next, but in his next big fight, and perhaps it could be his next fight. Would you like to see him fight Kell Brook? Would you like him to see him fight Adrian Broner? Would you like him to see pitched against Keith Thurman? Or would you like him to face Manny Pacquiao? Of those four fighters, I would say the biggest name worldwide, in my opinion, would be Manny Pacquiao. But perhaps in the UK, it'd be a Kell Brook fight. I mean, what's interesting, and I would like to get your opinion on this as well, Cliff, for the opponent, but also, world boxing now. I mean, the UK is the center of world boxing as far as I'm concerned. I mean, this is where the money is. We've got one of, in my opinion, the greatest champions, certainly one of the greatest champions, probably the greatest champion active at the minute, Anthony Joshua. I think he's a fantastic role model for the sport as a person. He's very honest and truthful, great fighter. Love him to bits. But what do you guys think? What do you think, Cliff? Who should Amir Khan's next big opponent be? And what do you think as well about the UK being the centre of boxing? Do you agree with that? Disagree?
I think yes, I agree. It's the centre of boxing for the UK at the moment.
Yeah.
And I think it's great that guys from the US
have to come here now. Back in the day, we had to go with
sort of the other way around. But
absolutely.
For Khan, I'm not too sure about an opponent for Khan because. Just my opinion, I just think he's
should mic up?
He's maybe just on the tail end of his career. I'm not too sure. But I would like to see him and Mayweather. But that would have been an interesting fight. But I still think Mayweather would have got it. But I'm not too sure if Khan is. It's a funny one with his. I don't want to say last throw and all the rest of it. But he's been hit by some big guys.
Yeah. I mean, would you pick? It's interesting. You said I would love to have seen him fight Mayweather, and I think he might have had the tool. I think Mayweather would have won, but I think he would have had the tools to win. I mean, of this, I'd like to see him fight. I'd like to see him fight Adrian Broner just for the fun of it, to be quite honest, or Manny Pacquiao. But a Kell Brook fight, I think, is the most likely one. So again, what do you guys think? We don't want to spend too much time on this. This is an overview. If you want more information, you're very welcome to watch some of the footage of Amir Khan actually discussing this a bit more in depth, and Eddie Hearn. If there's any questions you have, please put them in and we'll try and do our best to answer them. But what do you think? What do you guys think? Are you thinking Adrian Broner, Keith Thurman, Manny Pacquiao, or Kell Brook for Amir Khan's next big fight? So, interesting. Yes?
I think Chris Reed is saying something maybe Broner.
Yeah.
Broner could be a good one.
I fancy Broner. I'm exactly who I think.
I'm just having a bit of a conversation with Chris at the moment.
Yeah, go for it.
We've been dropping in and out of the live stream.
Right.
Austin doesn't look okay, and he says it's all fine, so
Yeah.
I might just be dropping in and out.
Okay. Well, we apologise if we've got any more technical hitches tonight. We might be dropping in. It's a live show, so sometimes we're going to get this. We are recording it for a podcast, so if you do miss anything on tonight's show, and a shout out to Mr. Baz Jones, who's hopefully still with us on his way to work. Actually, shout to Baz, my boxing coach and a great fighter himself from the Manor Gym. Shout out to the Manor Gym, Mickey Terrell. So Baz, if you're listening on your way to work, all the best. Want to get you on the show. Want to get you on a phone in as well. That would be great. So I want to shout Baz before he goes, before he comes off the channel listening to us, and to his lovely girlfriend as well. And Chris, we're going to get you on a phone in as well. I'd love to get you on a phone in too, my man. So even if you can't get down for we'd love to get you on a phone in. Maybe on the next show, we'll get you on the next show. Shout out as well, just quickly, to Matthew Stark, the King of the North, one of my guys, Team Alpha guys, who's boxing at the Federation Brewery tomorrow night. I believe he's defending his kind of northern title there. So shout out to Matthew Stark. Also, a little section, we're going to be doing some live with some out of the studio, footage, for want of a better word. We're going to go to the Elite Gym in Alnwick. A new gym has opened in Alnwick. Well, it opened in January of this year. The Elite Fitness Gym, Ollie Dial's Elite Fitness Gym, which is located in Alnwick. And as part of that is our base for Team Alpha. We actually have a base there. We have our own little MMA gym within a gym. And obviously, so we're going to actually go down and do some recording there, some filming rather. We're going to show you the new gyms, show you the weights facilities, show you the kickboxing facilities. And speak a little bit with myself about the setup there, how things are going, and get you guys, give you guys a bit of an inside view into that. We're also going to do a little bit of outdoor filming, going to hit the beach potentially, depending on the weather, and the one and only, for your viewing pleasure, Barter Books. Right then, Barter Books. Tyson Fury, we're going to talk a little bit on Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury is on the comeback trailer. He's been out the ring for approximately 3 years. He'll be returning on June the 9th with an opponent, as far as I'm aware, not confirmed as yet. He's signed with Frank Warren. I did read, unless it's falsified, on his own Instagram, he posted a picture of himself with a manager's card from the British Boxing Board of Control. So I believe he has himself registered as a manager. I'm not sure if he's self-managing, but he's certainly signed with Frank Warren as his promoter, which I think is quite a shrewd move. You would think, why didn't he sign with Eddie Hearn, who's one of the world's biggest, most successful promoters at this point in time? No, I think the reason, I absolutely agree. I think they wouldn't get on, and I think astutely what he said is he would be Frank Warren's, I think, only heavyweight, if not his main heavyweight, and he believes that he wouldn't then be playing second fiddle to Anthony Joshua if he signed with Eddie Hearn. So he believes there'll be more opportunities for him fighting with Frank Warren, and I completely agree. As I say, he's been out for 3 years. He had a little bit of trouble from what I've seen and through interviews with depression, and a little bit of legal trouble regarding suspected drug use or some kind of banned substance within his system. But none of that's been fully confirmed as yet. Through his training, he's managed to lose, sources say, 7 stone, which is nearly 100 pounds of body fat. I'm not sure if he's put any muscle tissue on that. And it'll be his first fight, I believe, since 2015, when he successfully beat Vladimir Klitschko to win the IBF, the WBA, and the WBO World Heavyweight Championship, which was a tremendous performance by Tyson Fury. As I've said in the past, I'm actually a big Tyson Fury fan, and I have been for a long time. I think he's a great boxer. I think he's I don't know if underrepresented is the right word. Underappreciated, I think, is the right word. I've always liked Tyson Fury. I think he's a fantastic fighter, a great boxer, and he's proven that. He's proved that, beating one of my favorite fighters of all time, Vladimir Klitschko. As a dominant heavyweight. I think he'd only lost at that point to who'd he lost to at that point? Vladimir. I think he had 2 losses under his belt, and he managed to avenge. Yeah, Lehman Brewster. He lost the first time. Lehman Brewster, he just ran out of gas. He's just his body just kind of deserted him, and he came back and avenged that loss. And Corey Sanders as well. I think he was knocked out by Corey Sanders. Huge puncher. Yeah, God rest his soul. He passed away. I think he was some alteration had happened with Corey Sanders, but he was a southpaw, huge puncher. Sanders, South African chap, and I believe that was Vladimir's only losses. He actually fought Vitaly as well. Yes, he did. Vitaly avenged that loss. Yeah. That's right. And more interestingly, which I thought was Samuel Peters. Do you remember Samuel Peters? Was it Samuel Peters? He was like marketed as the next Tyson, as everybody is. Yeah. And he was a fantastic heavyweight, tremendous puncher. And when I think it was Vladimir's comeback fight after he'd lost to Sorry, who did we just say that he'd lost to? Lamont Brewster. His first fight back after that, I believe, was against who have I just said? Bloody hell. Yeah. So he was a dangerous puncher, and I think Vladimir was actually knocked down once in that fight, and he came back to box. I don't know if he stopped him or he boxed his way to I believe a unanimous decision. And then my point being is then Vitaly then fought Samuel Peters as well. It was Samuel Peters, and I think he actually stopped Samuel Peters. So anyway, looking forward to the return of Tyson Fury. Possible opponents that I have listed is Dominic Breazeale, Alexander Ustinov, which are, from what I understand, European heavyweights, tough European heavyweights of European standard. Detoni. No, please. Yeah, absolutely. Let's throw that in there. Chris Reed, when he was sat here, he predicted Joshua against who was our guy? Sorry, Joshua against Anthony Joshua like Parker. That was it. Sorry, against Parker, who was defending his WBO title, I believe, which Joshua now has taken hold of. Chris Reed predicted the Anthony Joshua matchup. With those two gentlemen's the matchup, and then he'd said for Fury was it Fury Wilder, is Chris saying, against Tony, and then the winner fight all. Fury versus Parker. Sorry, Fury versus Parker. Joshua versus. And yes, I've got you. So Joshua versus Tony would be their next fight, and then Tyson could come back and fight. God, what's wrong with my head today? Who have we just said? The name of the fighter that. Sorry, what was the name? Parker, sorry. Parker, that's it. No, it was Parker. So that would be interesting. So let's move on. So Tyson Fury could box Parker, and then the winner of those two matchups would meet, which I think is a fantastic idea. Parker. I do apologise, Parker, that I've not got your name right. So that would be an interesting one. I think what they're looking at is 3 to 4 fights for Tyson Fury this year, which I think would then get him, certainly straight back into the system, so to speak, and then next year would be the big matchup. I couldn't see Tyson Fury fighting Anthony Joshua this year. I think Parker would be a good idea towards the end of the year. I think maybe 2 fights and then Parker the end of the year, and then taking on the winner of Detoni Wilder.
Shannon Briggs.
Right, that was on my list. Look, is that what Chris has put? Did you write that, Chris?
I don't think he did.
No?
I think it may
Who suddenly suggested Shannon Briggs? Did you just think of that? Oh, really? That's interesting, because I've got written on here. Well, that's it. My choice, I think Shannon Briggs, that was the other kind of wild card opponent that they're discussing, would be Shannon Briggs. And I think that would be a great fight for Tyson Fury, because to make that matchup, I think perhaps even his comeback fight could be a good one, but certainly for his second fight, why not use Shannon Briggs? I mean, he's in his 40s now, I believe, and he's Let's Go, exactly. He's going to start the Let's Go champ again. He's going to drill up interest on social media. Even the layman's going to think, oh, Shannon Briggs, the Let's Go champ guy, yeah, and can you imagine the press conference between Shannon Briggs and Tyson Fury? It'd be wild. So I think that'd be a great fight to have, to not rebuild Tyson Fury's reputation, because he doesn't need his reputation built. But just to kind of reestablish himself in the boxing scene and see what happens there. So I think that would be a great fight for him. So yeah, let's see. So let's see what happens. So what do you guys think? I mean, opinions about Tyson Fury's comeback, and also who do you suggest for a possible opponent? A European heavyweight who I'm not aware of these guys, but all respect to them, Dominic Breazeale, Alexander Ustinov, or Shannon Briggs. Who would you choose for Tyson Fury's next opponent? I'm jumping over a little bit here because we're talking heavyweights. So I'm going to jump a little bit and talk a little bit on Tony Bellew. Little bit of information which I'm sure is like water well under the bridge now. Apparently he had been in talks with the UFC last summer about a potential fight with Michael Bisping, but the main focus for it's actually going to segue into one of our sections here. as he prepares. He's obviously preparing for his rematch against David Haye, which I believe is still on. Nobody's injured on that. I don't believe anybody's pulled out with injury, which will be happening on May the 5th. So, imminently. We're going to have a rematch with David Haye and Tony Bellew. I don't think there's a title on the line, although I could be wrong. I think it's just a kind of a marquee matchup and a very interesting one at that. The last fight was obviously victory. Bragging rights, absolutely. And it's a tremendous fight, and they should both be making quite a bit of banking, going to the bank with that one, and rightly so. Tony Bellew's 35, David Haye's 37, I believe. They're preparing hard for this fight. Tony Bellew came over successful in the last round. I think he stopped him in the 11th round. David Haye had suffered an quite a serious Achilles tendon injury, which required surgery, kind of pulling himself around the ring. Once that had popped, he couldn't obviously balance himself. It was a wearing down process for Tony Bellew. I think most people have picked David Haye to go in and blow him out with his speed and his power, but they underestimated Bellew's grit and boxing ability. Let's be honest, he has to be able to box to beat someone like David Haye. He can't just beat someone like David Haye purely on grit and chin alone, but he managed to kind of grind his way through and just find David Haye, and I believe David Haye was knocked out of the ring. He climbed back in, and as he got up to fight again, the towel came in from the corner. So say what you want about David Haye, he is probably the best. Go on, sorry Cliff, go.
Did you actually hear the commentary for that fight? With,
I watched it live, but I'm just trying to...
Steve
Bunsey, yeah.
I mean, if anyone's hearing this, does anyone recall him talking about David Haye's footwear?
I don't. So Steve Bunce had mentioned David Haye's footwear. What had he said?
It's like the worst like shoes he's ever seen in the ring. They weren't boots.
Support, right? Okay.
They were just like loose.
Right, like what? Like high top trainers almost, or
they were just like very loose trainers.
It's interesting. You wonder if that factored into the Achilles injury.
But the rumor has it that he actually came in injured.
Well, it's possible.
He actually came into the fight.
It's possible because we've had, I mean, the thing is, very few fighters come in completely fresh. So there's always going to be injuries that you're carrying in. I mean, I don't want to go off key too much, but Joe Kawasaki against your man Jeff Lacey. Apparently he damaged his hand, and that fight was going to be postponed or cancelled. But it's an interesting one. I mean, David Haye, I think we can inarguably the best cruiserweight we've ever seen of this in this country. I mean, he won the undisputed cruiserweight. He knocked out Jean-Marc Mormec in France. I think did he unify the cruiserweight title? So for me personally, I think he's the best cruiserweight ever produced, and probably one of the best heavyweights that's ever come out of this country as well. I've never met David Haye, but I'm not a fan as a person. I've never met him. I've not heard tremendously good things, but judge a man, judge as you find, but he's certainly a great fighter, and I imagine he's preparing, what's the word? Intensely for this fight. I watched the behind the ropes. What was it called when they have them facing off again? Johnny Nelson's there. Is it behind the gloves? Yeah. And I watched a little bit. I'm sure a lot of the viewers have tonight with Tony Bellew and David Haye. And David Haye did seem very subdued, and Tony Bellew was really just stating facts to David Haye, whereas in the previous behind the gloves, David Haye was like super confident, maybe cocky, arrogant, if you want to use those words, but certainly confident. But he just seems a lot more subdued, as if he kind of knows what's in store, so to speak. So it's an interesting one. I mean, so you've got the speed of David Haye and the power of David Haye. I think the biggest question is, can his body get him through potentially 12 rounds, and as Tony Bellew himself has said, one mistake and he could be unconscious, he could be in the back of an ambulance. I've got a lot of respect for Tony Bellew. I can't say I knew too much about him previous to that. I do remember him boxing as a cruiserweight, but I think he's very much a genuine guy. He's a genuine guy, a good guy, and I wish him all the best for and a tremendous boxer as he's proven. He said that he's gone beyond what he imagined he could ever achieve in boxing, but he's certainly gone out there and done it. A great family man, so all respect to Tony Bellew. What's your predictions for the fight then? So on May the 5th, we have Tony Bellew against David Haye. Do you think Tony Bellew is going to win? Do you think David Haye is going to bring speed and power at 37 now? He's nearly 40. Is he going to be able to kind of wind back the clock, so to speak, and bring all those skills and thrills into the ring? So let's see what your prediction is between Tony Bellew and David Haye. We're going to segue a little bit now. This is going to be for another show. So I'm just going to touch on this because I haven't done a lot of prep for this. So it's just a little conversation. And I just want to mention Spending More Sports, our partners for tonight, for donating these tremendous gloves. A question is going to be thrown down imminently. So a big thank you to Spending More Sports, and Northeast #1 combat retailer located in Durham, #1. And we'll be auctioning off. Not really. We'll be putting a question out for these gloves here. So can we throw up a graphic as well? Because I'm going to talk a little bit. When Tony Bellew was interviewed, he talked a little bit, touched on a little bit about drug use in boxing. Is there an epidemic? How long has it been going on for? The dangers of drug use in boxing are obvious, not so much for the person using the performance-enhancing drugs, but more for the opponent. And Tony Bellew kind of touched on this. He said something like, of all the, I think there's I don't have my figures exact, so you can correct me if you would like to, but there's something like 45, 50 recognized world champions, and he believes that more than 50% of them are taking something to enhance their performance, and we'll talk a little bit about on that tonight. Professional boxers in the past have been tested and have been caught using something. But very often, in the case of, and we're not here to vilify anybody, because until the evidence is put down in front of you, and it's actual, evidence from an expert, a medical expert, then we can't comment, and we're not here we're not here to create hearsay and rumors, etc. But we need to touch on the subject. We're not going to turn our back on it, because it is unfortunately a part of sport and a part of boxing. I think the danger with combat sports and any kind of enhancing drug that you're using, and this is what Tony Bellew, I'm kind of paraphrasing what he said. He said, if you're a sprinter and you're taking some kind of drug and then just run yourself into the ground, go for it, run and run. But when you're hitting somebody in the face, or elbowing somebody in the face, or kneeing somebody in the face, it takes a new dynamic where it's essentially you could damage somebody permanently because you've enhanced your body to a degree. You're able to do that, and that's something that Tony Bellew had mentioned, and he said that not until somebody until somebody passes away, somebody's killed in the ring, and then the person is proven to having used something, only then will something be done about it. But it's quite a deep topic and deep subject. I'm reading a book a bit at the minute about sport and genetics, and they talk a little bit about drug use and how certain people have certain genes that actually mask the use of testosterone, for instance. So you can't actually test. You have there's testosterone and it's not testosterone. I'm thinking epigenetics. But basically, the body regulates its own testosterone. So you can actually take excess testosterone, and say, for example, a regular dude may have a ratio of 1:1. So testosterone, and we'll call this ET, because I can't remember the name of what it is of that. But if you inject yourself, and say normally a normal person would have a 5:1 ratio, so you've got 5 times a ratio of testosterone in your body you should have. Certain people have genes, genes which they're born with, that regulate their own testosterone. So you could take 5 or 10 times as much testosterone, but you still have a reading of a 1:1. So there's a test inside of it as well. I mean, let's throw up a picture, and again, and I'm touching onto this because another big fight that was due to happen, the rematch between Triple G, Golovkin, and Canelo Alvarez, as far as I'm aware, been put on hold because Canelo had tested positive for a banned substance. Now, Tony, can we throw up the image, please? Yeah. Is it up there now? Right, brilliant. If it's the one I'm thinking of, it's actually a picture that Billy Joe Saunders had posted on his Instagram site, and I believe it was an off-season picture, 2 off-season pictures of Canelo. I'm just waiting to see if it comes up. If it doesn't, if you go on to Billy Joe Saunders' Instagram and have a little look on there, and it shows Canelo walking around looking tremendously buff, big, but also cut as well. He's still got his abdominals, his chest. He's not really carrying a lot of fat, but more, water weight and muscle. Now, is that evidence of anabolic steroid use, of testosterone use? We don't know. We can't distinctly say. But it's an interesting one because, you know, I think Canelo fights, is it 54 he fights at, which is light middle, 54 to 60, which is light middle to middleweight, Canelo boxes at. I think it's 54. All the boxing fans will be commenting that I don't know anything about my boxing. So, but it's an interesting one. And on that picture, 74k. I don't know what that is. I'm working pounds, my man. I think it's 54. I think it's light middle to middle, 54 to 60. Because I think he boxed Triple G at 60, didn't he? Because Triple G is a middleweight. Here's a question for you, just throwing it out. Joe Calazak in his prime versus Golovkin. 163. So the middleweight limit's 60 as far as I'm aware. Super middle 68. So he's going to be boxing light middle to middle then. So let's say middle 160. Now in this picture, he looks like he's about 200 pounds. Now it's a picture. We've got no reference. We've not got one on the scales. Right, no worries. But another interesting fact, going back to we talked about Amir Khan. Amir Khan, I don't know how he got this information, but and from what I'd read, he'd said that when Canelo had fought Amir Khan, he came into the ring at 187 pounds, you know, nearly 190, which if you remember was the old cruiserweight weight limit before they raised it to 200. Mate, I don't get that. Where you go from light heavyweight at 175 up to, and then your cruiserweight is 200. There's a 25-pound gap there. I think there should be a super light heavyweight division. Anyway, so drugs in sport. Now, we're not going to talk too much about it today because it's a future channel. It's also going to lead into weight cutting as well. You know, our athletes using diuretics, you know, to cut weight, amongst other things, thermogenics. You know, is weight cutting a good thing in sport? The reason to cut weight is so you're bigger than the other guy, but that leads to, you know, to traumatic injury. You know, if you're dehydrating your body, you're dehydrating the brain. Obviously, the fluid in the water in the brain, or fluid in the brain, is to protect the brain from injury. You know, are you taking away your strength and your stamina because you've drained yourself so much? So the controversy on weight cutting, which then links into drug use in a sense as well. So, you know, for me personally, weight cutting, I've always believed that you fight round about where you are. If you're working out and eating reasonably well, you're not taking long layoffs, then you're kind of going to be within your weight division anyway, you know, give or take. So when you're cutting 20, 30 pounds, which tends to happen more frequently in MMA, which may be to do with the wrestling, the collegiate wrestling culture, you know, that's dangerous. And it's dangerous from the perspective of the athlete who's cutting the weight then gaining it back, you know, from dehydration and then getting into fight, but also for the person they're fighting against when they're coming in, you know, 20 pounds heavier, and you've got a 20-pound heavier guy hitting you. It's not exactly a good day out. In boxing, one of the key players of that, God rest his soul, is Achiro Gatti. Remember, Achiro Gatti came in, I think he was like 30 pounds heavier than his opponent. I can't remember the opponent's name, and it was kind of a Malkin time fight, and he nearly decapitated the chap he'd hit. So it's an interesting one. It's something we'll dip more. We'll talk a little bit about boxers in the past that have you know, potentially, for want of a better word, tested positive for some kind of enhancement. We're not going to vilify him, but we're going to touch a bit more on the subject. We're going to touch a little bit on weight cutting, some of the extremes of weight cutting and some examples of that. You know, people talk about anabolic steroids being used, but then there's also testosterone, growth hormone, blood doping, EPOs, other things that are used as well. And the main thing with steroids is not necessarily gain strength, but when you're talking particularly about growth hormone, you're talking about recovery, you know, reducing muscle trauma, strengthening tendons, ligaments, you know, potentially bone density as well, and just allowing you to do more for longer and then, you know, and be fresher. Whereas if you're training naturally, then you have to kind of have this kind of cut-off point where you just can't do any more. But when you're taking something that's artificial, then it's getting you to the next level. That being said, though, and this is something that David Elliott, Speedy, had said, is that, you know, you get to a certain point when you're using pharmaceuticals, but then you meet somebody who's not using them, is just more skilled and has more kind of grit than you, and then where do you go from there? A good example of that actually is Mark Kerr, who competed a lot in mixed martial art tournaments and over in Japan. I can't remember the name of the tournaments he competed in, and obviously a tremendous athlete, wrestler. I think he was a collegiate wrestler, called The Smashing Machine. Fantastic documentary, that as well. The Smashing Machine documentary is on YouTube. And when he came back, when he was clean, he just could not, you know, he'd never get back to the level he was because he was used to the feeling of having, you know, used performance-enhancing drugs. So anyway, that's something for a future show. So Canelo Alvarez apparently It was a contaminated meat that contained, I believe, nandrolone. If you remember back in the days of Maxi Muscle supplements, which I think are still around, there was a problem with their supplements because back in those days you could have not androgenics, I'm trying to remember the name of it. There was basically supplemental steroids, and they had them recently in the form of T-bullets, where your liver would convert these supplements into steroids in the body, and they're actually probably more dangerous than actual anabolic steroids. But back in the day, Maxi Muscle, some of their athletes were struggling with testing positive. So was it contaminated meat, or was it something else? And again, we don't have the documentation to prove that or to show that. So, but that's something that's, it's a subject that's in the media, certainly in the last, how long has it been going on for in boxing? We don't know. But certainly I would say in the last 5 to 10 years, it's become a more predominant subject. Mayweather was a big supporter of drug testing, on the behind the scenes stuff, the 24/7 and the Showtime All Access. He was talking about drug use. Shane Mosley in the part of a Balco scandal, which was a supplement. Again, that could have been something to do with nandrolone, we're not sure. People accuse Floyd Mayweather of taking anabolic steroids as well. I don't believe that. I personally think that it's very much hard work, dedication, and 30, 40 years of working at his craft. So we're going to talk a little bit more on that in a future show. I'm kind of just thinking things in my head as we're talking about that. We're going to talk a little bit. We talked about Tyson Fury. I'm kind of going back now. I'd missed something here. Potentially, he'd been knocked down in sparring. Vladimir Klitschko ex-sparring partner Michael Hunter had allegedly knocked out Tyson Fury in sparring, but we can't confirm that. We don't know if that's actually the case. Allegedly. Although, he hardly got hit by Vladimir Klitschko, and I'm a big Vladimir Klitschko fan. He hardly got hit by him. But if you can take a Vladimir Klitschko punch, you're probably going to be all right, Yeah. Another one here. Just an interesting. Well, actually, should I mention that? Steve Ibbotson punches harder than. Maybe I don't know if I should say that on air. Well, word got back that Stevie Ibbotson punches harder than a professional boxer, but I'm not going to say who. Wow. And I've been hit off Stevie Ibbotson. He does hit hard, as he can contest, and God bless Stevie.
Is Stevie Ibbotson not fighting July?
Yes, he is. Stevie Ibbotson, future guest. I don't know. When is the fight confirmed for? It's July. Stevie Ibbotson, the Hellraiser, training partner, good friend, supporter, coach. Amir Sabasic, sure. Yes, we're gonna bring Stevie on. I think on a future show before he competes, and we'll promote. Obviously, if you want tickets, get in touch with Stevie. He's got an upcoming title fighting for the #1 ranking, I believe, in his weight division. In K1. So we're gonna have Stevie on, and he does hit hard. Absolutely.
I think the show's called Wolfpack.
Yes.
The Wolfpack, isn't it?
It is what? Is that the what? Is that the what? Where?
The Dome, but I'm not too sure if it's still at the Dome.
I thought we were part of that. Are we not?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Wolfpack. The show's Wolfpack with Amir Sabasic. People will be there. In my retired state, I'll be there, backstage interviewing. Living the high life as we do on our expenses account. I think I'll get a nice hotel room Can I get a hotel room for the night on PEEP? Because I've got to travel all the way from Morpeth. That's like a 15-minute ride, and steaks. Can we?
Just give us a shout where you want to be. We'll book that in.
Fantastic. And we'll go for a nice meal as well. Also, shout out to David Wield. Thank you so much, David, for all your support over the last 20 years of my career. I really appreciate the support you gave me, and putting a show together for me, and allowing me to. Shout out to Jewel. That Jewel have been a fantastic supporter of me. I've fought on, several of their shows, and David Wield has always been the main man for me. He's just been very honest, very dedicated, very supportive of me and my career. So I thank you, David, to that. Thank you, David Wield. I want to shout out David Wield because I know he watches the show. Deontay. I can't read this. Deontay. Oh, Deontay Wilder says he will fight at a 60-40%, not purse parity because that would be 50-50, but a 60-40. I was hearing talks about 33 being the number, so he's saying that he'll fight for a 60-40 and a $50 million prize. So I've not really. The last word I got was that our man Eddie Hearn was saying basically be looking at a 33%. Yeah, so what would that be? Would that be 66-33, wouldn't it? Yeah, 66-33. I think 60-40 is reasonable. I mean, the A side in this fight is without a doubt Anthony Joshua. You cannot argue. And I'm a Deontay fan. I like Wilder. I think he's great. But let's be honest now. Being an American heavyweight with a WBC belt, it just... The general public are not really interested in that. They're interested in the fact that Anthony Joshua, with all due respect to Wilder, because I'm a Wilder fan, I think he's great. You know, Anthony Joshua, he's good looking, he's personable, he's got a great physique, he trains hard, he's a people person, he's the main man, and he's the number one. So I think, you know, and you know, the thing is this as well. Well, I'll say this. I'm just going to move the mic, Cliff. Are we still getting me, yeah? Yeah. Brilliant. I'll say this. Deontay has earned his stripes, as far as I'm concerned. When he beat, don't tell me, it was at the Jamaican heavyweight. It was a legitimate WBC champ, and he outboxed him for 12 rounds. It'll come to me. Stavern, thank you. That, to me, proved that he could box, he could do rounds, he wasn't just a big puncher. Now, I know... You actually fought him again? Yes, he did. Yes, and he stopped him. Now, I know he struggled in a sense. He fought the Polish southpaw. I'm sorry to just label him as that. And he seemed to struggle with him. Sputadu. Yeah, no, sorry. All respect to I've got our Polish viewers out there. Fantastic. One of my main students is Polish. Shout out to Krzysztof Pomansky and my ex-girlfriend Paulina. She's watching as well. Polish girls, fantastic, beautiful and intelligent with it. But yeah, he's kind of struggled in past fights with his boxing. But I'll tell you what, I'm not allowed to say the F word on. Can you beep that out if I say F? No. Okay. F punch, can he? I mean, he can hit like... Yeah. I would say he hits harder with one punch than Anthony Joshua. Spelker. That's not my ex-girlfriend, by the way, Spelker. Oh, right. I thought, I was the boxer, right? I'm with it. I'm with it. That's it. Bum, bum, bum. Did you get that one for? But I think Wilder's a bigger single, and he's not that heavy. I mean, he's 6 foot. Is he 6'7", Wilder? But I read reports he's only like 217 pounds. He's not a very big guy, you know, like weight-wise, but he carries so much momentum with his... I think he's 217, what I read. So, you know, he's not that big, but he can bloody hit like... And Spelker, he literally put him in a neck brace in a what's it called? A stretcher, you know, So my point is, I think that, you know, Wilder, even if he accepted a 70, you know what, I think 70-30 has taken the PISS a little bit. I think 60-40 is a fair enough, so I'm going to leave it at that. What are your thoughts?
16 stone and a bit.
No, he's that heavy? Yeah. See, 217 is only about, I thought he was about 15 and a half maybe. It's all good. Okay, look, we're gonna fly through this one because I think you've had your fill of this. We're gonna talk a little bit on Conor McGregor and the bus incident. Okay, so just giving you a little brief for those who haven't heard. Just read off my notes here. Conor McGregor's legal troubles. He was arrested fairly recently after attacking a bus containing, which amongst others contained possible future opponent. I'm gonna let Cliff get on the mic and give me this fighter's name, Khabib. Get on that mic, Cliff. Unless could we get Chris to phone it in and tell us it's spelled Nurmagomedov. Khabib Nurmagomedov. I'm kind of it's like I feel like on do you know Liar Liar, Jim Carrey was singing when he's trying. I feel like. I think everyone knows who we're talking about. So McGregor was charged with assault and criminal mischief and fined 50,000 Gs, UK Gs apparently. And if he hasn't had his court case yet, he hasn't been to court, because if he's convicted, he could face up to 7 years in jail, which I can't see happening. Maybe just hearing in a bail, and then he's going to have his a final hearing. Would it be not a hearing? What would it be called when you have the judgment made on you? I'm not sure. I haven't read any books on legal terminology recently, so it's all good. He's been stripped. Also, I understand he's been stripped of his lightweight belt due to inactivity. So what's going to happen is Dana White going to step in and make a super fight in Russia with Khabib? Money talks in the sport. So, you know, if he's... Here's the thing, though. If money talks in the sport, so what we're looking at is Conor McGregor fighting Khabib, right? That's what we're looking at in Russia. Tremendous. Money talks. Is there a chance... He's not going to get paid more than what he got paid for fighting Mayweather, is he? Do you really think he's going to bank more than that? I would...
That's what UFC kind of do, don't they? Always...
Yeah, but not really. I mean, I think they've been quite tight with the money, to be quite honest. And I mean, I think people, you know, you're on this kind of set deal, from what I understand, where you get paid a set amount, and Conor kind of, you know, broke that. What's the most Conor's been paid by the UFC? It's got to be more than I read $1 million, but if it's that's pittance compared to what he was paid against Mayweather. I mean, I heard rumors of 50 million for Mayweather. I don't think it was that much. I heard rumours of 50 million for Mayweather, and $1 million is the most he's been paid in the UFC. But I'm probably wrong about that. We're going to check it out now. Good old Mr. Google, eh? No longer do we have to get on a plane and fly to, you know, Las Vegas or whatever, and go and speak to Dana and say, how much did you pay him? But now we can just Google it. I haven't done. We're going to have to crack on, actually. I've not even done my book review yet. Other question. We'll come back to it. So interesting. What do you think then? Who do you think Conor McGregor's next opponent should be? Apparently he's back in Ireland chilling, and you know, good luck to him. So I mean, I watched a clip of the bus incident. We're not going to get too much into that. I mean, it is what it is. It's done. It's dusted. So that's something we can come back to. We'd mentioned before on July the 28th, Wolfpack, Amir Sabasic, who we've had on before as a phone-in guest, Super Fight Series promoter. He's going back to Newcastle, so we'll have him in on a future show as we lead up to that. Cue picture of Amir Sabasic. Just kidding. Just kidding. It's all good. And I should mention again that we are sponsored by Spenny More Sports. Now we're going to. We've got so much to do. So I'm getting. So we're gonna remember. You can subscribe to us here on @PEEP Magazine on Twitter, peepmagazine.co.uk on YouTube, Instagram @PEEP.ltd, and contact @PEEPmagazine.co.uk. You can follow me, James Watling, on Team Alpha 1424 on Instagram. You can follow me on Twitter @WatlingHot, and you can follow me on YouTube as well at Team Alpha. Actually, I haven't spent much time on that, but I need to get with that. And on Facebook, you can find me on James J Watling for your nutritional, sports psychology training, inspirational, martial arty. If you need it, I've got it. Okay, you can follow me on there and come train with me. You can train with me on a one-to-one basis, private class. I'd be more than happy to spend some time with you. So it's now time for our usual slot. Let's do it again, Cliff. It's time for our... All right, we've got a graphic. I don't believe it. Please tell me we've got a graphic for this.
Yes, wow.
We have. Okay, you just cue me in for the graphic. It's time for our usual slot with Ridley Scott. I know, but I need you to say it with me. I need studio backup. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Our usual slot with Ridley Scott. Okay. You kind of killed that one. You meant to shout it out. You meant to shout it in the studio. That kind of killed that one. If the viewers at home can help me with this. It's time for our usual slot with Ridley Scott. That's more like it. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Terror. Now it's these new, I think I'm going to call it a mini-series again. Ridley Scott is a producer. It's an AMC mini-series or drama series. That's actually out now. You can watch the first episode for free. On what format is it on free, sorry?
It's on BTTV.
BTTV, which I unfortunately don't have, but I did watch the trailer last night. I'm just going to read you a little bit of a synopsis here, and I'll give you my impression of it, what I saw from the trailer. So The Terror, it's based on a true story.
Yes.
Based on a true story, produced by Ridley Scott. What does that mean, producer? He hasn't directed it.
No,
He just took a phone call. He says, yeah, it sounds good, and then hung up and got...
Yeah, you'll probably...
Overviewing it. Yeah.
You'll probably look at the production notes and
For those who don't know, the reason that we have our Cliff with me? Usual slot with Ridley Scott. Ridley Scott is actually a big fan of the show on PEEP. It's going to be very hard to actually get him onto the show live because he's obviously a very busy man, but we're hoping to get him to phone in. I think what was the history that you'd met him? Had you gone to some kind of like a gallery or so, or when you were at university? I think you'd met him from university.
He come into the university, he'd done a little speech there.
Speech, yeah.
And we got chatting, and he's like,
yeah.
You really like your work.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
But we've been friends ever since, James.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what I'm confused about is why he's not contacted me to, at least co-star in one of his upcoming films. Some kind of like. Well, I think you need a kind of a middle-aged, kind of handsome, athletic lead that can emote in front of the camera.
Yeah.
So maybe that call's coming. Maybe Gladiator 2.
Yeah.
Black Hawk Down 2.
Or maybe
What else 2? Or maybe a 3? Maybe Blade Runner 3?
Maybe a second series of Taboo.
Taboo, yeah. We can talk a little bit on Taboo.
You haven't seen it yet?
I haven't seen Taboo. I haven't, but it's interesting. So that's the background with Ridley, our connection with Ridley here at PEEP magazine. So the synopsis: an exotic tale based on fact. It's a drama based on letters and reports of the British Royal Navy search for the Northwest Passage. An expedition with 2 ships, the Erebus and the Terror, led by Sir John Franklin, disappeared in ruthless polar ice, minus 50-degree conditions, in 1848. John Franklin was 59 years old when he accepted the journey and the mission. Nobody knows exactly what happened, but what we do know is that both ships were trapped in an ice within the Northwest Passage. And I'm not going to read the rest, no spoilers actually, because I'm thinking people who don't know the history maybe don't want to. But it's yeah. But so viewer discretion is advised. Right. We'll throw that up. Can we throw that up in a sec? Because I just want to talk a little bit. So I don't want to give you too much more information than that, and I hope that hasn't spoiled anything for you. I watched the trailer last night, and for some reason I thought Walking Dead, even though it's not nothing, it's by AMC, so maybe it's got those same kind of production quality and values. So essentially, what you've got, and please watch the trailer. It's on YouTube. What I'd had seen is some kind of like almost court-based drama, which we've been talking about the expedition they were proposing, and then 2 ships. If you're talking 1848, so they're kind of like, what would you call those ships? Like not warships, you would call them. What would you call those ships from that era?
Kind of like a galleon.
Galleon.
But not a galleon.
Almost like, if you think like,
Maybe post-galleon.
for absolute layman's terms and being a bit cheesy, like, I don't want to say pirate ship, but let's just say that. But that kind of like, the British naval ship of the 1840s era. So if you think, back to like Richard Sharp and those kind of times.
I think the 2 ships that Captain Sir John Franklin went out on was one of the first ones to be steam.
Right, okay. So early steam-powered ship rather than sail, okay. So what I'd seen on the trailer is then these 2 ships in these Arctic conditions, because obviously they're in the polar ice conditions, trying to find a way through the Northwest Passage, and it seems like the weather fell in, and then basically the sea had frozen around these ships, so they were trapped, and they're basically trying to survive on these 2 ships. And they send out search parties, scouting parties, just to kind of survey the land around them. They come across this kind of overturned ship that's been, this overturned kind of lifeboat that's been wrecked and destroyed. They talk a little bit about how that could have happened. And then some of the sailors start to disappear. So it's almost like kind of a mix of kind of a drama, horror kind of genre, So it's got... I mean, from what I saw in the trailer, it looked to me very intriguing, and I think.
What you're saying there, James, is not really a spoiler because it's kind of fact.
Historical. Yeah, I'm with you.
I think everyone who takes a slight interest in it will know about this history, Well, I think it's a hell of a story. I think everyone should go.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what's intriguing me is nobody knows exactly what happened, but we do know that both ships were trapped in the ice within the Northwest Passage. I don't know too much about geography of the Northwest Passage. So, is that when you're trying to come around the strait through the polar exploration? It's the worst disaster to hit the British Royal Navy history of polar exploration. So nobody knows what's happened to the Erebus and the Terror. So then things start to happen. People are disappearing. Then there's like dissension amongst the ranks on the ships, you know, and then the Terror starts to build. And it's kind of a classic kind of, what would you say, like a story of isolation and man against man, and you know, and how you know, I don't want to say the psychology of man, but kind of man's inhumanity to man. So the tension seems to build. So it certainly seems to build. It's filmed very, it's very high production values. It's AMC, which brought us Walking Dead, which as far as I'm aware is the highest rating series of all time. And it's certainly worth a view. So if you have BT TV, the first episode is free. So I'd recommend that you go onto your BT TV and watch the first episode of The Terror. Produced by Ridley Scott, so it's got high production values. It's got a fantastic dramatic story. It's based on history. It has the horror. It has the drama. It has the fact. It also has it's got great cast, great actors, playing off against each other. I'm struggling for words here, but it certainly does look. I think if you're a fan of anything that Ridley Scott's done, if you're a fan of The Walking Dead, if you're a fan of like Taboo, if you're a fan of like drama, horror, if you're a fan of stories that have a lot of depth and levels and layers to them, then certainly this is for you. At the very least, go onto YouTube and check out the trailer for The Terror. And it's something that we do recommend that you watch. We're going to flick up a few pictures now. Now, viewer discretion is advised because some of the pics you might find a little bit disturbing, but these are actual pictures from the Erebus. Is that correct?
Yeah, these are photographs of a few of the sailors that were found, but if you look in the notes, James, from 2014, the Erebus was actually found.
That was the bit I hadn't mentioned as a spoiler, but right. So no, that's fine. So that segues into that. So I'm with you. So at the bottom here, in 2014, Canadian scientists discovered the sunken Erebus, and more recently, after 170 years of searching for the Terror, the Terror was found. So viewer discretion on this one. We're going to throw some pics up. So if you're in any way squeamish, you don't want to see these pictures, then please turn away now.
If you've got kids with you, I wouldn't advise any kids to be watching.
Yeah. So we're showing you a little bit of history. That being said, if you've watched Seven, it's probably not be as bad as that, is it? Watch all these complaints come in now.
So the image I've thrown now is a guy who was actually found, one of the sailors.
Yep.
And these are real photographs. James can't see these, but
yeah, although I can't unfortunately comment on them.
I'm just throwing these up. Okay,
brilliant. So once again, The Terror, we recommend that you tune in and watch the first episode of that. A little bit on support. If there's any business out there that would like to support our channel or show or future shows, there's plenty of opportunity for brands looking to get involved, such as the fantastic InCase and Spenny More Sports. You can follow us on Twitter at Peep Magazine, YouTube peepmagazine.co.uk, Instagram at Peep. It did, yeah. I'm trying to raise things back up again now. I'm trying to. Peep Limited, contact Peep Magazine. You can follow me, James J. Watling, on Facebook, Team Alpha 1424. Please follow me on Instagram. You will not be disappointed. I cannot promise you, TNA, but I'll do my best to accommodate. And you can follow me on Twitter at Watling Hot. That's the one. Okay. We're now going to come on to the last little part of our show, PEEP EXCESS. We said we talked PEEP EXCESS. Do we have not PEEP sex, but PEEP EXCESS? I think we just got another 1,000 subscribers on that.
Yeah, we've got the PEEP EXCESS graphic, yes.
Brilliant, PEEP EXCESS. So PEEP EXCESS is a part of the show. We talk about anything that's not combat related. We talk books, we talk film. It kind of segues or kind of blends a little bit into the PEEP syntax. We talk a little bit about history. We might talk a little bit about art, a bit science. Any other topic we like to discuss, street life, etc. Just on that note, on PEEP EXCESS, we are going to be doing some out of the studio filming over the next couple of weeks. We're hoping to bring the next episode in approximately within the next 2 weeks. But we're also going to be doing some outdoor filming. We're going to go to, I think I mentioned this before, to Anik at Elite Super Gym and Team Alpha, our base over in Anik. We're going to be doing some filming in the gym, showing you some of the facilities over there, interviewing some of the chaps over there. Ollie Dial, obviously, who set it up. Jeff Brown, who's one of the kind of the supporters of the gym, and myself, obviously, having my base there. Maybe even get to Almouth, and then Cliff Sainsbury will taste the ginger or chocolate that is the Barter Bucks biscuit. Question to Chris Reed, if he's still watching: ginger or chocolate chip?
Yeah, we really want to know. We really want to know, Chris.
We need to know. We need to know. Listen. If you go ginger, you want to go chocolate. But then there's that ginger, just kind of like you think, should I go ginger this week? Should I have a change?
Chocolate chip? I don't need chocolate.
You don't? Chocolate chip?
I don't need
Well, looks like you're a ginger man then. You're going ginger biscuit.
I used to years ago, but not,
Well, you're going
not the last 30 years.
You tell me you're not going to have a Barter Bucks cookie. You got to have a cookie.
I'll buy one, and then you can have it, but I'll go.
Oh, that's fine. You have a coffee though, yeah?
I'll have a coffee.
Brilliant, we'll get you on the coffee. Right, listen, 30 pence for a coffee. Where the hell else in this world do you get a coffee for 30 pence?
I'll have a white Americano.
Mate, we don't go that. It's out. We're not. This isn't Costa or Starbucks. You know, you got to get a bit more rustic when you're over at Barter Bucks, my friend.
White Americanos?
They don't. It's just straight up coffee, baby. It's black or white. That's it. Right, so PEEP EXCESS. We're gonna talk a little bit on. Oh, we're gonna throw up the graphic. Oh, sorry, we've got a graphic of the book, Devil's Teeth, or rather, The Devil's Teeth. This is a fantastic book. I've read this I think I've read this about 4 times. I happened to pick this book up at a mobile library, actually, back in the day when Morpeth's library Morpeth was flooded. I don't know if you remember those days. And they had a mobile library, actually. And I just happened to come across this book, and on the cover, it says Devil's Teeth. I was like, okay, that's cool. New York Times bestseller. Okay, that's cool. These kind of jagged rocks. I was like, what's this? And then you see the blood in the water, and you see the shark fin, and you think, I'm getting this freaking book. So it's something I've read a number of times. It's a factual account of the islands of Falerone, and I'm just going to read you a short synopsis that I've written, rather than just reading it off the back of the book. Is the camera still on me? Yeah, so you can.
Chocolate chip, Chris.
Yeah, chocolate chip. Chris has been a Barter Bucks man. He's a Barter Bucks fan. Yeah, he's been there. He's blessed it. So I'm not reading off the back of the book, as you can see. I'm going to go with my own synopsis. So, Devil's Teeth. Remember the BBC documentary about 2 guys in a very small boat filming 18-foot great white sharks? Anybody remember that? With a camera on a pole.
Yeah, I think I've seen that. I think I watched that.
The quote was, "Pretty wild." Well, this book is a story of these 2 gentlemen, Mr. Peter Pyle and Scott Anderson, 2 shark enthusiasts and biologists, and I think one of them was an expert on aviary as well, birds, who decided to observe these legendary creatures, the great white sharks, not the birds, in one of the most dangerous and inhospitable locations on Earth, the Falerone Islands. Written by Susan Casey, it became a New York Times bestseller. It tells a story of their adventures during shark season and beyond. So it's the Falerone Islands are located. I think they're located within. I think it's a 30 miles offshore of San Francisco, off the Golden Gate Bridge. So they're actually they're actually within a pizza ordering area. If you were to live in San Francisco, it's like a 30-mile radius. So they're within that jurisdiction. The Falerone Islands themselves are mainly inhospitable kind of chunks of rock, and the Devil's Teeth are actually parts of the island that just basically stick up, and seals. It's a seal breeding ground where seals will kind of like locate themselves, but not where you would where man would fear to tread. But part of the island is actually the back in the day, and they'd built kind of like not an enclosure, but like a house where had several bedrooms. Apparently there was a school built back in the day, and they tried to have a community. There's a lighthouse on there. But during the time when the documentary was filmed, Peter Pyle and Scott Anderson would live in the house located on the island, and they would actually go up to where the lighthouse was and use that as a place to look for attacks. Because the idea would be, and there'd be other researchers as well, and interns from like university interns that would spend time learning their craft if they study marine biology or aviary, etc. And the idea and the uniqueness of the Farallon Islands as far as a shark watch would be, number one, it's a male breeding ground for seal colonies. So you're more likely to get sharks that are going to locate themselves there for feeding purposes. And secondly, yeah, go for it. No, go. Go. No, go. I want to hear it. No, it's good. No, it's good. So you would get seals there, and the highlight of it would, you get 18-foot great whites and 20-foot great whites that would feed. And rather than being fed in cages, what they would do is watch for them feeding, attack a seal, for example, and then they would lead in and watch the attacks, so watch them in the natural environment. One of the things that they did do is they'd have a surfboard on the end of kind of a fishing wire, and they'd pull the surfboard, and then the sharks would breach, because great white sharks are one of the few sea creatures that breach, or certainly one of the few sharks that breach. They would throw the bodies out of the water, 10, 15 foot out of the water, and then straight back in again. But what was interesting, what they would do is during an attack, they would lower this boat into the water, this small dinghy, and kind of locate themselves over to where the sharks were and film them with just a camera on the pole. So they're kind of balancing on this small, 10-foot craft, while these very dangerous, where these 20-foot great whites are feeding in front of them. And in the documentary, you can actually see the sharks coming up, and it's called not touch, and there's a name for it, where they kind of like just gently gnaw the boat, just test the boat with the teeth, because they didn't not nip, but it was like testing. There's a specific name for it. Nibble, let's say nibble. So what's so interesting is how big the sharks were, the inhospitable environment, and the fact that they were filming them in their natural, as I say, natural environment, natural feeding. So there was no bait, there was no trimming, there was no cage. It was all done very kind of like organically. But the Farallon Islands themselves had a great history. There was shipwrecks. Many ships have gone down there. It's a notoriously dangerous place for ships to kind of go out and sail by. Although there would be tours that would go out, whale watching tours would go out, but not in bad weather. It's one of the most inhospitable places to go. Many shipwrecks. Also has a history of egg hunting as well. Back in the day, they didn't have any kind of hen's eggs inland on the mainland. So what they would do is send out people to hunt for gulls' eggs. So people would climb up the side of the cliffs trying to get these gulls' eggs, where the gulls would come down and attack you. People would fall off, and originally, I can't remember, it was they called themselves the Farallon Egg Company, I believe. And it sounds crazy, but they came back on a small boat, and in fact they came back with thousands and thousands of gulls' eggs. But they had to kind of bail out half of the catch, because the weather was so bad the boat was going to go under. But even though they only brought back half of the eggs, I think they'd made something. And this was back in was it either the late 1800s or the early 90s? I think it was going to be the late 1800s. They came back with like tens of thousands of pounds. So essentially they'd made their fortune. As soon as people heard of that, then everybody was out there trying to get these gulls' eggs. So it's a really interesting story. And Susan Casey, and because she's a civilian and she didn't have you had to have kind of like an official kind of pass to go onto the island, she wasn't allowed to stay overnight. So what they'd done is they'd borrowed this kind of, I don't want to say like a sailboat or a leisure boat, and anchored that offshore. And I'll not really spoil it for you. So basically she was offshore, and then she'd have to kind of ferry back and forth as she was recording, all these shark attacks and talking about the history of the Farallones and using the shark decoy boats, which I mentioned before. They would even actually name the sharks. There was rip fin, blunt nose, white slash, because the sharks would be seasonal. They'd come back sometimes year after year. Sometimes there'd be a gap of 5 years. I believe sometimes there's a gap of 10 years. But the male sharks were 14, 15 footers, and occasionally they get what they call the sisters, which would be nearly 20 foot, legitimately 20 foot, and female great white sharks, which were, like the size of a minibus as far as the girth and the length, 20 foot, which is what, like, I don't know, like triple the size of a regular car or double the size of a car. I'm just trying to get some kind of scale here. So if you think about the film Jaws, go on.
A small van, isn't it?
Yeah, basically like a small van. So if you think of the film Jaws, which had 25-foot, a fictional story, obviously, a 25-foot great white, and you think that these are only 5 foot smaller, it gives you a little bit of perspective. So yeah, it's a tremendous, it's a kind of book that you can probably get through within a couple of days, because as soon as you start to read it, you just get lost in it. I mean, I've read it, like I say, on like 4 or 5 occasions. There's the kind of open page, nature's most terrifying predators, islands forsaken by civilization, a fascination beyond reason. So it's something that I highly recommend. I forgot to mention another chap called Bob Elliott, who was just very quickly a diver. And he dived for, I think, what I believe are pronounced abalones, which are kind of like sea urchins, but very valuable. For one of those, I'm not sure if it'd be hundreds of dollars, and he would go down and pick them up. But this Bob Elliott would kind of drive out or sail out in his boat called the GW, which I believe stood for Great White. And on his own, he would just stick on his diving gear, on his own, nobody around him, and just dive down into the Farallone seas to search for these abalones, these sea urchins, for want of a better word. And whilst he was doing that, he's surrounded by great whites. He's looking up, and there's great whites swimming around him. And apparently he was once attacked by one, and it attacked him, and he managed to kind of dislodge himself from it. So this guy's going down there day after day, week after week, year after year, diving down into dark, pitch black waters, with nothing but just, obviously his suit and his mask, etc., and his tank, searching for abalones in one of the main hunting grounds for some of the biggest great whites on the planet. And, his story is there to see as well, is there to read about as well. Unfortunately, the BBC documentary, I couldn't find it on YouTube. I can't remember the name of it. I tried typing in Farallone Islands Great White Sharks documentary, BBC documentary, but unfortunately, I couldn't find anything. So anyway, definitely recommended the book, The Devil's Teeth. So you can find that on Amazon. I reckon you can get it on Amazon for under £5, including delivery. Absolutely. I managed to get it at where did I find it? At where are we? Barter Books, because you can see on the watermark there. So we've got that from Barter Books. That's where I managed to get that one. So Devil's Teeth. If you've got any interest in, here's the thing: when Shark Week comes on, that's next. Yep. When Shark Week comes on Sky or what channel? What's the main nature channel on satellite called? Is it Natural Geographic? Thank you. When Shark Week comes on, their viewing figures go up by X amount of hundreds of %. So if you've got any interest in sharks, you just want a good tale or story, a little bit of history, a little bit of drama, a factional tale. Sorry, I really recommend that book, Devil's Teeth. So that is Peep's Lock of the Week, Devil's Teeth. Boom. And there's Susan Casey at the back there. And I haven't got anybody to give this copy to, but that's a tremendous one. Right, the last part of the show. So we're going to talk a little bit gloves. We're going to talk Spennymoor Sports. So Spennymoor Sports were generous enough to donate, to partner up with us tonight and give us these tuf-wear gloves to kind of question off 10-ounce. They're Pegasus Safety Spar gloves, white, red, 10 ounce. For me personally, I'll be using them as bag gloves, I think, or as pad gloves. So we're going to throw this question out there. I probably should have put this up earlier. I don't know why I've come to this last, because now somebody's got to answer it. So here's the question, linked to the book that we've just reviewed there. There's an upcoming film release featuring a giant shark. The first person to post a link to the trailer on our not news feed, but on our comment section on YouTube, as we are on right now. So I'll say that again. I'll just say that back again. There is an upcoming movie release featuring a giant shark. The first person to post a link to the trailer and answer this question on our comment section will win these tremendous tuf-wear gloves. And the question is, the first person that can name 4 films featuring a shark as the antagonist. Okay. Sorry, So the first person to post a link to the trailer for the upcoming giant shark movie, I just kind of give it away in a way, the giant shark movie, and answer this question, name 4 films featuring a shark as the antagonist. And the first person to put that on our comment section will win these tremendous tuf-wear gloves.
So that's name 4 films with the shark as the protagonist.
I would say, is it antagonist, or I would say antagonist.
if the thing or the person is the main thing in the film, that's the protagonist.
I would go antagonist then, because it's kind of the side. Or it could be pro-antagonist. So name 4 films featuring a shark as the. It would generally be the antagonist, I would say, because your stars will be your main guys. So name 4 films featuring a shark as the antagonist, along with a link to the trailer for the new giant shark movie. First person to do it, and you're going to win these gloves.
We've got someone writing in right now.
Right, we've got somebody writing in right now.
So we've got.
Here we go, we've got somebody writing in. Is this going to be right? I need to authorize this as well, so I'll need to. I think Cliff's just writing it down. He's going to hand it to me. There's a link for the trailer on there, and it's got to be the right film as well. We need the link on there. It's got to be the right film for the link.
I don't know if you can accept this, James, but I don't know if you can accept this one.
Is a link on the trailer?
Is there a link on the trailer?
The link for the trailer of the film has got to be on there. It's got to be the right film as well.
Oh, right.
And I'll give you a clue for the film. It stars Jason Statham. It stars Jason Statham. I knew somebody was going to do that. Well, if I didn't say I wouldn't accept that. So, but they need to put the link for the trailer on there as well. Whoever's written that.
We're not going to accept that, James. I don't think.
Well, I'm not against it. Who's put that?
Have a guess.
Well, I did say at the start that I would allow that. But have we got a link for the trailer yet?
Can you put a link to the trailer?
We need a link. I'm going to accept this because I knew somebody would do that as a joke. But I will accept that because I didn't disallow it at the start. But we need a link.
Oh, he's saying that the comments box
right
rejecting the link.
Got you. So what's the film that for the link he's tried to put in? If he answers that correctly, is 1. I'm assuming it's a he because you've not told me who it is. What's the film? Sorry, okay, just tell us the name of the film, please, of the link you've tried to put on. If you just write the name of the film.
Okay, I'm going to write it down.
Okay. And just before, I'm just going to read these. Okay, right. Just before I tell you, I did say at the start that if I bet you somebody puts the answer to the question, these answers are acceptable because I didn't say I would disallow them. So the answer to the question is shark, and it is antagonist. Jaws 1, Jaws 2, Jaws 3, and Jaws 3D. However, I believe Jaws 3 is Jaws 3D. Jaws 3. Let's check that. I think Jaws 3 is Jaws 3D. Because Jaws 4 is actually called something else. Check that. I will accept these, but I think it's Jaws 1, Jaws 2. Jaws 3 is Jaws 3D.
Jaws 3.
Is it 3D?
Jaws 3. Jaws 3 is an
Is it Jaws 3 3D?
Jaws 3D, that's all the same.
Yeah. We need another shark movie because there's Jaws 1, 2, and 3, and Jaws 3 is Jaws 3D. I'm that much of a nerd that I know the answer. I know that, but I will accept the next Jaws movie, and I know what it's called. Have we got anything? Is anything on the comment section? Because I can't accept Jaws 3D because Jaws 3 is Jaws 3D.
If anyone else is writing, write via the YouTube channel.
Yeah, we did say it's got to be via the YouTube channel, guys. So if anybody else is trying to answer this question, it's got to be via the YouTube channel. I'm not being picky, but I need the last letter of that deep blue what? I need the last one. I need the last letter, the last word. Deep blue something, and I will accept it. And I'm not trying to be pernickety. Got to be fair. I don't know who. I've got a suspicion I know who it is. So I've got Jaws 1, Jaws 2, Jaws 3, which is Jaws 3D. I need one more film. I've got Deep Blue, but I need the last word in that title. And anybody else who's writing in, first person to write in, show me. Okay, we have a winner. We have a winner by the skin of their teeth. Before you tell me who it is, so the answer was Jaws 1. Jaws 2, Jaws 3. I couldn't accept Jaws 3D because Jaws 3 is Jaws 3D. I would have accepted the fourth one, which is Jaws Revenge. We had Deep Blue, but the correct title would be Deep Blue Sea. So we jumped that into Sharknado, which is also acceptable. So the official answer we have is Jaws 1, Jaws 2, Jaws 3 in 3D, and Sharknado as the 4 protagonist films. And the film trailer, which link which we couldn't unfortunately post, is The Meg, which is correct, which will be in your theaters, I believe, in August, starring Jason Statham. And you know what? It's better than I thought. It looks better than I thought it would be. I thought it was going to be just another Sharknado, but thankfully it's not. It looks like they put a little bit more work. It's a bit of a kind of a comedy kind of genre-ish going on there, but it looks like it could be quite good. So The Meg with Jason Statham. Check out the trailer. So we have a winner for the gloves, and who is the winner? And I'm going to put those up right now. So the answer was Jaws 1, Jaws 2, Jaws 3 in 3D, Sharknado. And the trailer, or the film of trailer that we were trying to post, but unfortunately we couldn't on the comment section, wasn't allowing it, is The Meg. And the winner is?
And the winner is Mr. Chris.
Turn it up.
And the winner is Mr.
Chris Reed, yes.
Thank you, Chris.
I bet you were chomping at the bit thinking, that mother effer, why is he not accepting my answers? But I had to make sure they were the correct. Funny enough, as me and Cliff at the start had said, I bet somebody, I'm going to take this out of here. I bet somebody says Jaws 1, Jaws 2, Jaws 3, Jaws 4. But again, I think Jaws 4 was in fact Jaws Revenge, correct me if I'm wrong. And Deep Blue was Deep Blue Sea. But you came back with Sharknado and you got it in the end. So those gloves will be sent.
Well done, Chris.
Well done, Chris. And thank you for watching the whole show and for supporting us as well. As I say, I wasn't being panicky at the end, but we had to do everything by the book. So those gloves will be making their way towards you. And I hope you've watched the Meg trailer as well, because it does look like it could be quite a special film. So we're just going to finish off by saying a big thank you to Spenny More Sports for sending in these tremendous tuf-wear gloves. Yep, for the competition. And the competition has been won by Mr. Chris Reed. So thank you to Spenny More Sports for that. We'd like to, again, recommend the book Devil's Teeth to you. That's our book recommendation of the week. You can pick that up on Amazon. You can pick that up at Barter Books. You can pick it up at your local bookstore. Maybe support your local bookstore. And if you've never read a book before, that'd be, well, if you can read, it would obviously help. But if you've never read a book before, which you probably have, and you're looking for another book, Devil's Teeth is something that I'd recommend because it's very accessible. It's a very accessible book. We recommend that you check out The Terror, Ridley Scott. New series come out on BT. What is it? BT TV. The first episode is there for free. So why don't you just kick back, relax? It's a Friday. Is it Friday? I think it's a Friday night. Watch The Terror. Yeah, I'm sure you will not be disappointed. I hope you've enjoyed our little section on combat news, talking a little bit of boxing there. Remember, we will be having another show for you. It'll be PEEP Live number 9. I think we'll have some guests in the studio. That'll be coming up to you within the next, within the next 2 or 3 weeks. We'll confirm a date for that. Myself and Cliff will confirm a date for that. And we'll be bringing some outside the studio footage for you at the Elite Gym in Alnwick, presenting some of the training facilities there for you, something to look at, and perhaps you might come along and get involved. So this has been PEEP Live number 8, live from the centre of Newcastle with myself and my good friend Cliff Sainsbury. So we at PEEP would like to thank you for your time viewing. We hope you have a good weekend, and we'll see you again very soon. We're out. What happened before? I'll be honest, that threw me off.
I know, mate.
I got really anxious there.
I looked and I went.
No.